Freeman Health System adds another unit to help care for COVID-19 patients.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defends her decision to reject two of the Republican picks for the committee investigating January 6th. I'm Natalie Brand with the next steps for the panel and the investigation into the Capitol attack.
And how virtual reality is helping people with autism prepare for job interviews.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Joplin's Freeman Hospital adds a third unit to handle COVID-19 patients. This is KOAM News at 5. Freeman's director of COVID services says the new unit is in response to the increasing number of coronavirus patients they've seen over the last month and a half. The new COVID unit will assist coronavirus patients who are transitioning out of the intensive care unit. These patients still need a lot of assistance, including oxygen and specialized medical equipment.
This unit sits in a middle position, so it's patients that are still very severely sick, but they're not at that ICU ventilator level.
Tonight at 6, we're going to learn how much of Freeman's resources are dedicated to saving patients with COVID-19. Officials provide more details on Missouri's new vaccine incentives. And we first brought you this story yesterday when Governor Parson announced Missouri VIP, the state's vaccine incentive program, where 900 Missourians who already have or will get vaccinated will win $10,000 each. Today, officials with the State Department of Health answered one of the biggest questions many have had. Why aren't vaccinated Missouri residents already automatically enrolled?
We don't have access to a lot of the federal records. So, for instance, those who maybe were vaccinated on a military base through DOD, through the VA, we don't have that individual's record. So those people, if we weren't doing it the way that we are, would be automatically excluded.
Also, if you live in Missouri but were vaccinated in a state other than Missouri, you're eligible. But you'll need to supply the state with your vaccination card within 10 days of winning. If you do win, the state plans to publish your name and the county you live in. Winners cannot remain anonymous. We're going to hear more about why tonight at 6. State of Missouri also briefed local health departments on how local incentives should work. As part of Missouri's VIP, $11 million of grant funding from the CDC will allow local health agencies to give up to $25 to each vaccine recipient. That money will be in the form of a gift card. The Barton County Health Department director attended a meeting with the state today and says not many details for the program are set in stone.
They're scrambling to put the plan together for us to look at, and then we're going to have to make some pretty quick decisions and move forward with it. They're on a time frame. There is a time deadline. They mentioned the first couple of weeks of August to have things rolling and going at the local level.
Dermott says the plan right now is for local departments to have more latitude in how they administer the program. Authorities arrest a man who could be connected to bank robberies in both Kansas and Southwest Missouri. The Miami County, Kansas Sheriff's Office says officers have arrested a suspect in the robbery of Landmark National Bank in Lewisburg, Kansas. That robbery happened on Monday. Earlier this week, Joplin police were investigating whether it was the same man who robbed Great Southern Bank later that same day. Surveillance images show a robber wearing similar clothing and driving a white car. In both cases, formal charges are still pending. A federal judge has temporarily blocked Arkansas's ban on gender-affirming treatment for transgender youth. The American Civil Liberties Union filed to stop the ban on behalf of 4 transgender adolescents in Arkansas, as well as 2 doctors who provide gender-affirming care to trans youth in the state. The ruling means, for now at least, Arkansas will not be able to begin enforcing the ban on July 28th. That's the day it was set to go into effect. The state's GOP-led legislature enacted the ban in April after overriding Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson's veto of the measure. LGBTQ and medical advocates strongly oppose the legislation, citing fears it could have significant negative impacts on the mental health of trans youth. Checking in with Doug Hetty now for a first look at the weather.
Well, it's been warming up over the past couple days, a little bit hotter for us today. High temps mainly into the upper 80s. We have the cumulus clouds that have popped up during the afternoon hours, and you can see a few random little hit and miss showers that have popped up over the past couple hours. And these are going to be around, very random, over the next few hours. And then once we lose the heating of the day, these will dissipate. The more widespread ones are staying to our south across central parts of Arkansas. Temps right now mainly into the mid 80s, but the humidity has been cranking up a little bit for us today. So our heat indices are right around 90 degrees, and these are really going to go up as we go through the next few days. For the evening hours, slide back through the 80s, 70s, a little more on the mild side tonight. We only drop back into lower 70s for overnight lows. Now, it gets just downright hot as we head toward the weekend. We're going to look at that here in just a bit.
See you then. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy are holding their weekly press conferences today amid a showdown over the January 6th commission. Representative McCarthy says he'll pull all 5 of his picks to serve on the select committee investigating the assault on the Capitol if Speaker Pelosi doesn't rescind her rejection of 2 of his recommendations. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
Just days ahead of the first scheduled hearing for the Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack, the bipartisan panel is at risk of falling apart.
It isn't even bipartisan, nonpartisan. It's about seeking the truth, and that's what we owe the American people.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defended her decision to reject 2 of GOP leader Kevin McCarthy's picks, Indiana's Jim Banks and Ohio's Jim Jordan, 2 outspoken allies of former President Trump.
This is impeachment round 3 for the Democrats.
Speaker Pelosi cited the integrity of the investigation in announcing her decision.
When statements are ridiculous and fall into the realm of you must be kidding, there's no way that they're going to be on the committee.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy is accusing Speaker Pelosi of an abuse of power and has threatened to pull all 5 of the representatives he chose to serve on the committee.
This is a sham committee that's just politically driven by Speaker Pelosi. It doesn't matter today what she does with that committee because it's not going to change the outcome of what it seems like a predetermined or already written report.
McCarthy said Republicans would conduct their own investigation. Meanwhile, Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney, the one Republican appointed by Speaker Pelosi, defended Pelosi's decision.
The rhetoric around this from the minority leader and from those 2 members has been disgraceful. This must be an investigation that is focused on facts.
Democratic committee members say they plan to move forward with their first scheduled hearing next Tuesday. They expect testimony from law enforcement officers who were there when a violent mob tried to prevent the certification of the presidential election. Natalie Brandt, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
The select committee established by the House is expected to consist of 13 members. A little bit later, debate over the right to fix phones.
People who break their phones are often forced to replace them, but now there's a government push that would make it easier to fix them. I'm Fami Redwood with the details on the right to repair.
But up next in Health Watch, how virtual reality is helping people with autism train for job interviews. Topping today's Health Watch, nearly 30% of Americans began taking vitamins during the pandemic in an effort to boost their immunity from COVID and improve their sleep and mental health. That's according to a new survey by the Harris Poll. Researchers say while taking supplements can help with your overall health, they warn not all supplements are FDA approved. The American Heart Association says babies who are breastfed, even just for a few days, have lower blood pressure as toddlers. Researchers say cardiovascular issues begin to develop in early childhood for some. They believe breastfeeding could result in stronger heart health for adults. Interviewing for a job can be intimidating, and even more so for someone with autism. Even in a good job market, only 20% of adults with autism get hired. Well, now new technology is helping to change that.
Hey, how was your day?
Catherine Badina and her mom share more than mealtime at home. These days, they now work for the same company. Catherine was recently hired to do data entry.
It makes me feel really good because it makes me feel like I'm doing something and that I matter in the world. You know, for the longest time, I never thought I matter.
Catherine has a learning disability. In 2019, she enrolled at the Dan Marino Foundation, where she trained with VITA, virtual interactive training agents, avatars that help those with developmental disabilities, including autism, prepare for job interviews.
Thank you for coming in. How are you doing today? Why don't you tell me about yourself?
Well, my name is Justin Marquez. I'm a student at the Dan Marino Foundation, and I'm currently studying in the hospitality field.
It just builds up your if you're prepared, everything's easier.
VITA uses a variety of avatars to engage interviewees.
Before I start rattling off questions, is there anything you want to tell me about yourself?
There's different characteristics, so you can either have someone that's very soft and will talk to you very nicely, or you can have someone maybe that's more direct.
I remember one time they gave me the hostile person on purpose because that was the hardest one, but I nailed it.
Virtual reality like VITA is helping those with autism find work and worth in the real world.
Having a job and doing something every day makes me feel good and know that it's a way for me to contribute to society.
Avatars have also been used to help soldiers recovering with PTSD, and future uses could include helping the formerly incarcerated re-enter the work world. And that is a look at today's health news. A little bit later, should consumers have rights to have electronics devices fixed instead of replaced? We're going to look at the arguments and proposed legislation.
Plus, the heat really continues to kick in over the next few days. We're going to look at that coming up next. Well, it's turned out to be another warm, kind of humid day across the region as our temperatures are slowly creeping upward and will continue to do so as we head into the weekend. But again, July as a whole, not bad, mainly into the upper 80s. We were 87 yesterday. So far today, about 88. We should break that 90-degree mark by the time we head into tomorrow. Very hazy evenings over the next couple evenings due to the smoke from the wildfires out west. It gets hot, it gets humid, random, isolated storms. Of course, you can always get my long-range forecast on my month-long blog. That is KOAMnewsnow.com. But look at the smoke. So the heaviest smoke is right across central parts of Missouri. So again tonight, we get that very hazy sunset. The sun's going to look real reddish. And then as we go into tomorrow, most of it starts to lift toward the north. So still a little bit hazy for us by the time we head into Friday evening, and then it really kind of clears out by the time we head into the weekend, which is good, meaning our air quality will definitely get better. Temps right now mainly sitting mid to upper 80s, but the humidity has come up just a little bit. So we have heat indices right around 90, 92 degrees across the region. As we go through the evening hours, hazy. We'll drop back through the 80s, 70s, and then I think most of us will bottom out a little bit more mild tonight, kind of in that 72, 73 degree range, but not too much is going on. We've had a few isolated little tiny showers, little thunder showers have popped up over the past couple hours. These are very tiny, very hit and miss, but if you get stuck under one of them, it may pour on you for 2 or 3 minutes, but most of you are going to end up staying dry. Most of the rain, or at least more widespread, is staying down across central parts of Arkansas, but this is caused by this little upper level low in western parts of Texas, and it will give us these isolated little thunder showers during the afternoon. But this is actually going to lift north and kind of get wrapped into this huge dome of high pressure out across the Rockies, and that's really what's going to heat us up as we go through the next few days. That high pressure kind of gets a little bit closer to us. All right, tonight pretty much clear skies, lower 70s. Let's go into Friday. A little bit hotter, near 90. Again, an extremely slight chance that you will get rain, as we will get just a few random isolated little thunderstorms that pop up again. 86 by noon, high temp of 90. Heat indices also going up. Tomorrow night we clear out, mid 70s. Do it again on Saturday. We start to heat up into lower 90s for afternoon highs. So we keep tacking on a couple degrees each and every day. So our heat indices going up. Tomorrow, heat indices into the mid-90s, and then it feels like about 100 by the time we head into Saturday. And this is going to continue. Watch the big dome of high pressure. Let's Sunday into Monday into Tuesday. See how it shoves a little bit east? As it gets closer to us, it gets hotter across the region. That's one reason that our heat is going to increase over the next few days. 90 tomorrow, 93 Saturday, 95 Sunday. Then we hold into the mid-90s. most of next week. And again, each and every day we'll have 1 or 2 random little thunderstorms popping up during the afternoon.
Pretty consistent for a while. Thanks, Doug. Authorities are evacuating tens of thousands of people from flood-hit regions of central China. Heavy rain has deluged the Henan province for almost a week, where the death toll has risen to at least 33. Coming up, debate over the right to repair electronics devices. First, though, we recognize a local veteran of World War I. Valita, Kansas resident Fred Roberts served with an Army engineer unit stationed in France in 1918 and 1919. Private First Class Fred Roberts, a 4-state hero. Topping today's Consumer Watch, more Americans signed up for unemployment benefits last week. According to the Labor Department, first-time filings for weekly jobless claims rose by 51,000 to 419,000. That's up from a pandemic-era low in the prior week. Southwest Airlines steps back into the black amid a fury of travel. The budget airliner says net income totaled $348 million in its second quarter. Compare that to a year ago when it suffered a loss of $915 million. Meanwhile, American Airlines also had a bump, though not as much, earning just $19 million. Still, it managed to pull away from 5 straight quarters of losses. China just rolled out what could be the world's fastest bullet train. The maglev, which is short for magnetic levitation, can travel up to 373 miles an hour. It uses electromagnetic force to levitate above the track with no contact between the train and the rail. When your car breaks down, you have the choice to take it to the mechanic of your choice or buy the parts from the manufacturer, maybe fix it yourself. But when your phone or other electronics fail, you might not have that option. Well, now there's a push to change that. Femi Redwood explains.
Alexander Degtarenko fixes phones and other electronic devices. A big part of his business is broken screens and battery replacements. But the repairs he can make are limited because he has to use third-party parts. Most phone makers do not sell parts or manuals on how to fix them.
I don't think it's fair at all. It's absolutely unfair.
Increasingly, manufacturers use all kinds of proprietary techniques to block you from getting into your phones.
Kyle Weens is the CEO of iFixit, which offers repair guides for a range of devices. He says it's not just phones. It's difficult to find parts for many electronics. He's now part of the growing right to repair movement.
That would require manufacturers to share the parts, tools, and information to fix things.
More than 24 states are currently considering right to repair legislation. And on Wednesday, the Federal Trade Commission voted to take on unlawful repair restrictions. Advocates say a right to repair would encourage consumers to fix a device instead of just buying a new one, and that would cut down on waste. Some manufacturers argue against new laws, saying repair restrictions are needed to safeguard software and other intellectual property. But supporters say it's time for a change.
We all benefit when repairs are more available.
That could include competition that leads to lower repair prices for consumers. Femi Redwood, CBS News, Brooklyn, New York.
Final check of the forecast next. The CBS Evening News is next. Then on KOAM News at 6. As Freeman opens a new COVID unit, we're going to look at how much of the hospital's resources are now devoted to COVID patients. Plus, the Missouri Supreme Court ruling concerning Medicaid expansion in the state. And 2 women walk 100,000 steps to raise money to provide free eye care to the homeless. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then, of course, KOAM News at 6. Doug told us yesterday that we would get widely scattered showers today, meaning very few of us would actually get it, and that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, a few random little guys popping up, and these will die down once we lose the heating of the day. But we're going to see this over the next several days, just a few random little pop-up storms. Bad news here is the heat starts to increase through the mid-90s.
Yes, it's going to be muggy too, I imagine. Thanks for joining us. CBS Evening News is next. Of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. We'll see you then. Let's make it a great evening.